Hello, and welcome to the Guild's new project, Unida, Faith in the Future. From September 2021, the Church of Scotland Guild is beginning a 3-year fundraising partnership with Unida. This charity educates women and gives them instruction in theology and practical training for mission. It is based at the University of Vitória in Espírito Santo state on the coast of Brazil. The Faculdade Unida is at the forefront of theological education. We will now watch a video giving a brief overview of Faculdade Unida, and then I will be speaking to its International Relations Coordinator, Dr. Graham McGeoch.
To unite countries without barriers, borders, prejudice of race, color, culture, and religion. To unite the world and society so we can in fact exclude from our midst the injustice and social differences. And that through knowledge, we become the true opinion makers which write our history. With this ideal, Unida was born, the first college to offer a degree in theology recognized by the Brazilian government. Founded in 1997, Unida has an ecumenical and interreligious profile in the Protestant tradition. Unida is located in the city of Vitória, in southeast Brazil. According to the United Nations, it is one of the most developed cities in the country and the third best city to raise children. Famous for its beaches, tourist attractions, culture, and a very hospitable and religious population. Unida, a new word for a new world. Hi, I'm Edmilson Henrik, CFO of Unida. I'm one of the first employees here, and I represent the staff of this great educational institution. Unida's headquarters is located in the city of Vitória, capital of the state of Espírito Santo, where according to the last census, 87% of the population is religious, which includes evangelicals, Protestants, Roman Catholics, and Spiritists. We have more than 20 years of experience. Thousands of students have studied and graduated in theology from here. I take great pride in being part of this family. Now I invite you all to visit us. Come and meet our family. Welcome to Unida. Unida has a collection of over 20,000 volumes in its library, modern computer lab, air-conditioned classrooms, multimedia facilities, and ample parking. The entire infrastructure is designed to meet the specific needs of every course offered, which makes the learning process more dynamic and enjoyable, seeking to combine academic excellence with social commitment. Unida has been consolidating its pioneering spirit in the generation of knowledge, research, and extension. With over 20 years of experience in quality education in theology and religious studies, Unida turns dreams into reality. It is the best place for you to start a project that will change your life story.
My name is Orlando. I'm from Lubango, Angola. My dream has always been to develop social work with Angolan children in the church. I am in my final year of theology. Unida is a great higher education institute, so much so that I left Angola to study here. I love theology, I love the history of Christianity.
Unida is not only present in the classroom. We have many fronts of action: teaching, research, and extension. So the faculty needs to go beyond what is taught in the classroom. It is the importance of research groups, single courses, events such as the international congresses we have hosted, and the lecture program called Intelligent Theology. All of this contributes to a broad education of our students. Our uniqueness comes from our commitment to values that cherish life. We strive to make the world around us a better place to live, therefore making the service we provide the true motivation of our existence and mission. I'm an alumnus student from Unida, graduated in 2015. All of the content I learned since I arrived here at Unida, with all the types of approaches and the lines of thoughts from the professors, contributed to my proper training and formation. Today, I work as a pastor in a local church, and everything I have learned, I have tried to put into practice with excellence and effectiveness. So congratulations to Unida, congratulations to all professors for the excellent work.
Hi, my name is Marciele. I study theology at Faculdade Unida. I participate in theology in English, where we read a text from Mercy Amba Odoyura. She's a Ghanaian Methodist theologian, known for her work on African women's theology. In the text, We Are Women, Africans and Faithful Christians, she exposes the lack of studies about the women contributions for the growth of the church in Africa. So theology in English is a great opportunity to improve our skills on the English language. Meanwhile, we discover and discuss theological approach from all the world.
We live in an extremely violent and violently unjust society. We know that this reality does not only affect Brazil, it is also present in the United States and in practically every part of the world. But we can't give up. We have to keep struggling. We can't lose hope. We have to keep believing. Our business here at Faculdade Unida is education. We firmly believe that with education we can transform the lives of thousands of poor young people whose chances in life are slim. We have the necessary tools to do this. We have the courage and determination to move on. We want to offer these people an opportunity, a chance for social and political emancipation. This is what we have to give them, a chance. For this, we count on your help. Thank you.
Unida, a new word for a new world.
I am now delighted to introduce Dr. Graham McGeoch, who is the International Relations Coordinator of Faculdade Unida. First of all, Dr. McGeoch, could you tell us how Unida started and what is the Faith in the Future project?
Thank you, Jean, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you and members of the Guild. We're delighted to be part of this project for 3 years. Faculdade Unida is an independent higher education institute, not-for-profit, that was set up in 1997 as the vision of 3 Presbyterian ministers who wanted to offer quality theological education independent of church affiliation to students in the state of Espírito Santo. The Faith in the Future project specifically is one of the priorities of Faculdade Unida, which is to provide education to women in particular, to poorer students who wouldn't normally access higher education, and to students in areas of urban peripheries. The project itself with the Guild focuses on empowering and mentoring young women through theological education and into service in the church and indeed the wider society. So that's what our focus is on, empowering and educating young women for service in the church and society through theological education.
Thank you. Please could you tell us how women get enrolled on the theology courses? Is it by entrance exams or otherwise, such as Zoom interviews?
Yep, it's by entrance exam, because although Faculdade Unida is an independent higher education institute, it's recognized by the Brazilian Ministry of Education, and it's accredited by the Brazilian Ministry of Education. Therefore, we have to follow the national exam system. It's something like the baccalaureate system in France. You know, there's a one entrance exam for all university courses, and because we're part of that government system, people then sit the national exam, and then once they've passed that, they can apply to Unida on the basis of that with their interest in theology.
Thank you. Are the students helped to find accommodation in Vitória, and is it expensive?
That's a great question. So our undergraduate work in theology draws students from Vitória and the surrounding cities. There are 5 cities that make up what we call Greater Victoria, with a population of 1.5 million people. And all of our students on the undergraduate programme would be drawn from Victoria, so there's no need to find accommodation for them in that sense. However, we also have a postgraduate master's and PhD programme in religious studies, and there we have students from all over Brazil. We have students from 16 of the 26 states in Brazil who come, but it's a modular program for 2 weeks. So they come for 2 weeks for intensive class work, and then they return to their state of origin and continue their studies there. During those 2 weeks, yes, we find ways by hook and by crook to be able to accommodate students to make their study time with us easier.
Thank you. Are the students supported exclusively by Unida's fundraising efforts, or are there government bursaries or other loans or support from their home churches?
Okay, that's a great question as well. So the higher education system in Brazil is a little bit different to the UK. So for example, there is no theology offered in public universities in Brazil, which would be financed by the government. This is to do with the history of Brazil, where religion was deliberately excluded from the educational system. And so today in Brazil, there are 21 programs of theology and religious studies, generally in universities that were founded by churches, mainly the Roman Catholic Church. Those programs are all accredited, and in those cases, the churches will finance the students through theology courses. As I said at the start of our time in an interview, Unida is independent of both the church and the state, so it doesn't receive finances directly from any church or from any state authorities. This means that we are 100% funded by student tuition. We obviously have extensive scholarship programs where we have reserves that we build up that we're then able to offer students part scholarships or full scholarships depending on their financial circumstances. And we're also able to apply for different scholarships from the government for very specific research projects, which we can involve our students, which helps them with scholarship on the programme. So it's quite varied, the approach that we take, but what we can say is that the institution itself is totally self-financing from student tuition, and we use those student tuition fees in partnership with other organisations and the government to offer as many scholarships as possible. Currently, for example, amongst our student population, we have just over 1,000 students on our programmes. Probably 50% of them are on some kind of scholarship. So it's about half already received some kind of scholarship, whether it's a full scholarship or partial scholarship.
Very good, thank you. Can you tell me, has tuition moved online as a result of the pandemic? And if so, are there more or fewer students than before? And have you had to reorganise everything?
Yes, is the answer to that. We were one of the very first higher education institutions in Brazil to move all teaching fully remotely online at the start of the pandemic in March last year. The universities in Brazil are still not back and not even teaching remotely, all of them. So we were one of the very first, a pioneer in this sense. It was a huge challenge because many of our students live in very poor areas. They don't have access to internet connection, let alone a laptop. A lot of them connect to us through their cell phones for classes. So the technology challenge has been immense for us, but we've managed consistently to deliver a high quality education. And one of the things we've noticed is we've expanded our scholarship program during the time of the pandemic, which has enabled students to stay with us studying, because we know many people have been made unemployed during the pandemic, and the very first people to suffer from unemployment are the women. You know, they're forced to then stay at home and care for their children. And so we've become much more flexible in terms of how we deliver our classes and also how we include people within the university system, aware that it's women who suffered first the consequences of the pandemic in terms of income and family circumstances.
Right. Is it very expensive to obtain a laptop for online studies? And is the Guild money going to go towards providing laptops? I can't imagine having to do all your research for your university studies on a phone, but I suppose some people have nothing but a smartphone to do this.
Yes, people can be very creative with smartphones, is what we're learning. In principle, no, none of the money that the Guild is raising is going towards laptops. We have tried to make some laptops available to some students. Laptops in Brazil are extremely expensive because they're all imported. So they would be more expensive than an individual laptop would cost in Scotland, for example. I don't know what the price of a laptop exactly is today in Scotland, but I think in Brazil you would buy a laptop for between £1,000 and £2,000, even just a basic model, extremely expensive. But we are hoping in Brazil that we will emerge from the pandemic perhaps early into next year, and that will then reduce the need for laptops. So we didn't envisage in the original project with the Guild either a pandemic or the need to buy laptops.
No, it took everyone by surprise.
Absolutely.
Now, does Brazil's patriarchal society mean that the women graduates have difficulty finding work in the church? I know they're being trained up to get theology degrees and training to be missionaries within Brazil, but are they finding that their churches don't want to employ them afterwards?
I think that this falls different ways. So Brazil, yes, is an extremely patriarchal society. So there are limitations to where women can serve, particularly in some churches. So for example, the ordination of women to ministry is not accepted by lots of churches that are represented within our study program. So that would mean that some women who are with us feel the vocation to full-time ministry, and that option just simply isn't available in their church. On the other hand, because of the patriarchal society, the traditional roles for women, education, childcare, social programs, missionary work, that's a huge field that women can engage in with their churches. And so we prepare women for both of them. Because we're not tied to any one church, we cannot prepare for ordination, but we give a theological education that would permit ordination if the denomination wants to go down that road. And we as a faculty have the position that women should be able to serve in all the ministries of the church, including the ordained ministries.
Yes, and of course they can work as deacons or so on without...
Yes, absolutely. And in Brazil, they talk about ministries and deacons and helpers and lay leaders and all these official roles which have a title and would have a salary, etc. So there are many different pathways into service, but there is the overriding question of patriarchy in the church and in the society, no doubt about it. And that's why part of our program has that mentoring and work placement, is to expose women to new working environments and for working environments to adapt to the presence of women in them, therefore opening doors in the future for women in new spaces for service.
Nice. And about how many women are graduating each year? And
So 40% of our students currently are women.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. How many people is that?
So we have just over 1,000 students on our program. So we're talking 400 women.
Right. Yes. Now, to get back to the pandemic, I know that Brazil has suffered greatly with many deaths and a shortage of vaccines. In particular, I recently read that 1,600 pregnant women had died of COVID. What are conditions like generally in Espírito Santo state?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The pandemic has been devastating in Brazil, and it didn't need to be. I think that's what we need to say first off. It's been devastating for many communities around the world, but it's been particularly devastating in Brazil. The official numbers demonstrate that more than 500,000 people have died. Those are underestimates because the government changed how it records COVID-19 deaths in hospitals, so those numbers are much higher. We have lost many students and indeed staff colleagues who have died during the pandemic. And so much of our work over the last 18 months has been focused on pastoral care rather than theological formation, to be perfectly honest. We are with a vaccine rollout program that is beset by corruption and political bickering, and therefore a very small percentage of the population has been vaccinated. So we are facing huge challenges in Brazil, huge challenges in the face of the pandemic. And I know that in many parts of the world now, we're talking about coming out of the pandemic, of building back better, of getting back to normal. That's not even on the horizon in Brazil at the moment. We are in what they call lockdown, although nobody follows the rules. There has been no national government response to the pandemic, and that's created huge problems for the country. And so all we can say is we live with the devastation, and we didn't need to.
Yes, and it's an absolute tragedy, I know. What is the target amount of money for the Guild to raise in the next 3 years, and what's it likely to be spent on? I know that we were told it would be things like scholarships and things, but will we be also supplying PPE and stuff like that, and helping to cope with the pandemic in other ways?
Yes. So when we engaged with the Guild, we didn't have a specific figure, financial sum in mind, because for us what was much more important was the reciprocal partnership and the mutual learning. As I said, we are training women for ministry and service in Brazil because of the patriarchal society. There are not too many, there are some, but there are not too many pioneering organizations which offer examples that can inspire our students of ministry and service. And we thought the Guild is one of those organizations, over 100 years of experience of path-breaking, groundbreaking work, of pushing the boundaries for the possibilities of women serving in the church, serving in society. And we thought there can be that mutual learning both ways. Our students can be inspired by the story of the Guild, and perhaps the Guild can be inspired and help our students move forward the situation in Brazil. So we didn't have a specific number in mind. When we talk about what the money's for, it's for scholarships. We weren't envisaging responding to the pandemic with this money at all. It's for scholarships. But when we talk about scholarships in Brazil, it has a slightly wider concept in this concept of scholarship in Scotland. So we can give a scholarship, tuition fees, for example, to our students, but that doesn't overcome the problems that they might not have money for transportation to get to the university. They might not have money for childcare. They might not have money to pay for their lunch when they come to the university. So the concept of scholarship, we can say, is more holistic in Brazil. It contemplates tuition fees, but it also contemplates these other costs, whether it be transportation, whether it be some kind of food, whether it be childcare if that's needed, because we want to be flexible and ensure women have the opportunity to study with us. So when we talk about scholarships at Unida, and that's the way our current scholarships work as well, this is not a new thing with the Guild. All our scholarship programs are much more holistic. They go beyond just the idea of paying the tuition fees for someone to study with us.
Yes, of course, like the way a student grant or loan would
absolutely
used for anything. But do they have to repay these scholarships, or is it just provided by Unida?
No, there's no repayment. So it's not a loan, and in that sense, it is a full scholarship, and there is no obligation. There's not even an obligation on some students to complete their studies, which gives us headaches. But we do our best, so people know they receive the scholarship on need, and then we live with the consequences of that, but there is no invitation to pay back.
Right, that's a good thing to hear. Yes, I'm sure that the Guild members will very much enjoy hearing about the work of Unida. It's an inspirational project, and we'll do our best to raise money for it over the next 3 years. And I hope that there will be more interplay of connections between Unida and the Guild, that there can be more videos made, more visits, and more discussions and debates. We were discussing how to get into contact with Unida and how to get the message out to individual guilds around Scotland. And we really hope to forge a firm bond with you. I know that in the past, Guild members have been delighted to get involved with the various projects we've had, and we've had a sense of commitment and of remaining in contact with them and continuing to support them in the future as we can.
Well, thank you. And we're very privileged and very proud to be a partner project of the Guild. It's a real inspiration for us here. One of the things we spoke about with the National Office as part of the partnership would be visits from Guild members in Scotland to Brazil. We have the capacity to host that post-pandemic, of course, and I think that mutual exchange would be great as well, because it has allowed Guild members to see directly what it is they're fundraising for, and it again builds those relationships. So we're optimistic that in the time frame of the project that we will be able to visit Scotland, and we'll be able to speak to Guild members, that we'll be able to participate, and we'll find people as well, recruits, to be able to give talks. But we're also hugely optimistic in discussions with the National Office that we'll be able to arrange for different guilds from across Scotland to come together with different members and come to Brazil and maybe spend some time at Faculdade Unida, engaging directly with our students and staff, and being able to take the good news back to Scotland as well.
That would be wonderful if it can be arranged. But I think interchanges of visits are very useful and very helpful for everybody.
We hope so. Right. Fingers crossed, post-pandemic.
Post-pandemic, yes, yes. Well, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the project and its features?
Just to register that our thanks in the name of our President, Vanderlei Pereira da Rosa, and in the name of our students. Many of them have been excited as we've prepared some materials that the Guild asked us to prepare in terms of worship and Bible studies. And I've done that together with some of my students, and that's been a really nice exercise. So they feel part of the project as well. And we are going to record some short videos of some of our students who can speak in English, who will communicate directly to the Guild their thanks and their thoughts about what it's like to study at Unida, so that some of your members can also hear directly from the students and not just hear from Scottish people like me based in Brazil.
Yes, that's excellent news. It'll really be good for making contact between Brazil and Scotland. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jean.
Delighted to be able to speak to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you.